What is up, guys? Technicals here. Today we're going to be doing an episode called Wishful Thinking, where we take a look at a potential solution for cheap power, for cheap energy, off-grid energy to run our mining equipment or just, to run our homes. So what I did is I went through and I found this. This is a turbulent system. They're out of Europe, and what it is a turbine that creates hydroelectric energy, but with a very low head. And we'll get into what that is later. It's not what you think it is. Get your mind out of the gutter. So we're going to take a look at that, take a look at how much it costs, what it can generate, some of the pros and cons, and whether it may or may not be right for you. I'm the Technicals. Let's get into it.
The Technicals.
All right, guys. So today we're going to be taking a look at a company called Turbulent. Looks like Turbulent is located in Spain. They are the manufacturer of this really innovative hydroelectric power solution. Now, there are no shortage of micro hydroelectric power solutions for off-grid living for individuals to set up. You can just Google micro hydro. You can YouTube it. You can take a look. These are, some of the examples of what people have done. But basically, up until now, most of them have looked something like this. You have a body of water, and then you need what's called head. And that's when you have a large volume of water that's able to be above the turbine. That way it can exert pressure down the pipe, and that pressure will come through the nozzle and spin your turbine. When it's under load, it's going to offer a lot of resistance to that water. And so you need that pressure to really turn the turbine at all times to generate consistent electricity. Now, I'm a big fan of micro hydro over solar because with solar, you need to store all the energy that you get during the day in battery banks, and then you have to invert it and convert it into AC. With micro hydro or hydro in general, you're getting basically continuous electricity being generated at all times. If you have a cloudy day with solar, then you might not generate as much. With hydroelectric, as so long as the body of water is putting out enough water and that doesn't dry up upstream, you're able to capture that at all times. Furthermore, you're putting the water back from where you found it. You're just taking the water, you're taking the energy from it, and you're putting it back into the stream. That energy is going to be wasted anyway as it makes its way downstream. So I'm a big fan of micro hydro because it's very green. With solar, you have manufacturing, you have batteries, and it's notoriously harsh on the environment when they're manufacturing lithium batteries or the solar arrays, and the waste, getting the parts and things to you, burning diesel on a freighter ship to get it to you. That's a lot. That's way more involved than something like micro hydro, which essentially only needs a very long length of pipe, your turbine, and then the electrical equipment to deliver it to where you're going to put it. So I'm a big fan of micro hydro. In the future, I hope to have a large parcel of land with a large flowing body of water that I can get water rights to, and hopefully I can generate my own electricity. Where it comes out here, this is obviously a larger setup. They've got a body of water that they're piping it down to, and as the pipe goes down, you have to use metal pipe because the pressures can become quite high. They have their turbine here, and then once they're done with the water, it just reintroduces it back here into the stream. But with this method, if you look up some of the YouTube videos, it is quite intensive piping that water down. It's really tough to keep leaves and debris and things like that out of the water, keep it from going through the pipe and the nozzle and into your turbine, potentially causing a problem. That's where Turbulent comes in. This is a very innovative type of product. I'm going to play this video here, and links to their site and YouTube channel are in the description below. But basically the way that Turbulent works is that it takes an existing body of water and it eliminates the need for you to have a lot of head. What it does is it's going to cut out a section of land here next to the water where you have some drop, some head, but nothing in the order of like hundreds of feet. It introduces this twisting sort of thing with the turbine in the middle. And what this is doing is, instead of exerting a lot of pressure to a small space to drive your turbine, it's using a large amount of water to turn bigger turbine blades. And as you can see here, with most and all hydro, you're reintroducing that water right back into the stream when you're done. You're not causing a big ecological impact, and you're getting a lot of electricity out of this. You can see the water enters here, and through the design of this concrete shell, of these concrete walls, it's turning it around, turning the turbine, and it allows debris to pass through it with ease, especially fish, other wildlife that's in the water. It doesn't harm them. And so your net effect on the surrounding landscape and environment is very, very little. And look at the parts on this thing. They're concrete walls. That's basically a very cheap building material. The only thing that you're spending a lot of money on is on your turbine and on your electrical equipment to get it into your home. You're going to have to spend money on that regardless. So you're really spending the money where you should with high quality turbines and electrical equipment to get it into your home. That's why I think that Turbulent is really just a great looking product, a great looking design, and I'm hoping that they can get some mass proliferation. All kinds of good information here on their website. You can install it yourself. You can tie it to the grid so you can get a credit on your home electricity bill. And, most importantly, this thing's able to generate a lot of electricity, way more than the average home uses, which is what we're really after, because we as cryptocurrency miners, we use a lot of electricity. We don't use a little bit of electricity here and there. We're using many kilowatts. And so looking here, they've got a basic calculator here, how much drop you have, and it's going to calculate how much potential electricity you're going to be able to generate per year and what your financial potential is. And that's going to help you calculate your ROI. The potential here for mining is tremendous, because if you're able to generate continuous power ongoing, you're going to be able to ROI on your equipment much faster, and you're going to be able to generate profits for a much longer period of time. Way more than doing something with solar or really any other type of alternative green electricity generation. So a little bit about the turbine here. It says the nominal power 5 to 100 kilowatts depending on the head and flow. These are going to be round numbers because you're dealing with nature here. This is everyone's situation is going to be different. Nominal head from 1.5 meters and above. Please consult. And nominal flow from 1,000 liters per second and above. It says fast ROI 3 to 5 years. I absolutely believe it. Large combined power production 3 to 20 megawatts. Less regulations and shorter times. And that's just great because you're not like taking water away from the stream to where it's going to impact people downstream. You're reintroducing it right back. All you're doing is taking the energy that was stored in that water. When the sun heated it up, it went into the atmosphere, it rained down somewhere in a mountain, or it formed ice, and then it melted and went back into the stream. That energy is going to be wasted anyway, just going down the stream. They're showing an example here. The total head is 1.7 meters, which is not a lot. Q, I'm guessing that's the flow rate, is 1,600 liters per second, and the power generated 15 kilowatts. So that's 15,000 watts continuous energy being generated. So let's take a look at the math here. How long is your ROI time? You can see it right here. Now for this example, I am using very fuzzy numbers. I was able to find on Turbulent's website the estimated cost per install. Now this is a very fuzzy number. Install prices are going to vary based on where you're putting it, the site selection, local contractors, how much they're going to charge if you put in any work there. But on the FAQ section of their website, they quote 4,000 euros per kilowatt to install this thing. Converting that over, roughly 4,500 US dollars per kilowatt. Again, that can go up or down severely, and I'm sure there's ways to get that number down. But for our example here, using very fuzzy math, so before you start hating on me in the comments for being off in one way or another, just let me know where the discrepancy is, and hopefully in the future we can correct that. But the total install, we're putting at $4,500 per kilowatt. Now, my personal farm that I have at my warehouse has a total capacity on three-phase power of 35 kilowatts. I have 4 208 times 30 amp circuits, and then I have 4 120 times 20 amp circuits for a total of 35 kilowatts, but I don't use that on a day-to-day basis. I'm not at capacity. So for the example farm, what we're going to use is off Turbulent's website. They put a 15 kilowatt system as their basic example of what they can really max out at. So my farm doesn't use that, but we're going to use that 15 kilowatt as an example. Total install cost on a 15 kilowatt system comes out to $67,500. My personal usage, I'm putting the average cost, and this is just based on my last bill, seemed about right. So I'm going to use my average cost per month, or my average usage per month, 15,812 kilowatt hours. That comes out to my average bill being $1,347.18. That puts my total cost per kilowatt hour at about 8.5 cents. Now, when you pay a power bill, here's a little shot of my power bill right here. When you pay a power bill, you're not paying just for your electricity. You're paying for taxes, you're paying for riders and fees and other little things that they work in there. So as your power bill gets larger, those static fees become less significant and they contribute less to the overall amount of your power bill. So if you have a very low power usage every month, those fees actually account for a lot more. So as it gets larger, and before you get into those industrial stage tiers, your power bill actually goes down on the per kilowatt hour side of things. That brings me to about 8.5 cents. Doing that basic math, that puts our ROI time at about 50 months or about 4 years. On Turbulent's website, they quote the ROI time between 3 to 5 years, depending. If we're using this for mining, though, we're generating electricity here. They do this numbers based on residential usage. So, you're not generating any income off of your power usage in a residence. You're just using it for your standard of living. We're generating money based off this. So you could probably cut that ROI time down significantly. Say you have a good month in mining, you sell out a little more, you pay off your principal a little more. That's all depending on your financial discipline and how you want to do it. But it puts you at about 4 years ROI time. The benefit to this too is that you sort of make yourself bulletproof to rate hikes. Everybody knows that over time, things just get more expensive. The power company wants to do an upgrade. They want to put a new turbine in their electrical power plant. They want to build a dam. They want to put a new reactor in their nuclear power plant. Then they're going to pass that cost on to the consumer, either through tax subsidy or by hiking your power bill. They're not going to pay it. So over time, electricity will only get more expensive. As we move to green energies, hopefully that stabilizes, but I don't see green energy taking our power bills down unless we're the ones putting in those green power solutions in our own homes, on our own homesteads, things like that. I don't see power getting cheaper over time. I just see it getting more efficient, which is good, but for us, we're still paying it out of pocket. Now, I want to look at some of the pros and cons of using this type of system. You can read through them right here and just skip ahead in the video if you want, but some of the cons, just to go through it real quick. It's obviously a large upfront cost. You're going to encounter this with solar or really any green technology that you put in yourself to save yourself on the power bill. That's where you're paying it. You're paying it in the upfront cost. Also, something that a lot of people really talk about is you're losing out on the potential efficiency of future systems. Solar, as we all know, is getting more and more efficient every year. But because it gets so much more efficient, a lot of people don't buy it because they're waiting for the next year, because it's going to get that much more efficient. We're already seeing solar systems in third world countries, emerging markets, becoming so efficient that it's orders of magnitude cheaper than traditional systems like coal because that infrastructure hasn't been built yet. So you're by buying it now, you're missing out on potential better power returns and a shorter ROI time if you wait another year or two. But you're not contributing money into that system, into that industry, slows down that efficiency. It's really a double-edged sword, and it's very interesting to watch. So you're losing out on the future there a little bit. You also have install time, which could be great. It could be low. It could be high. It all depends on your site selection. Maintenance for the system. They don't really talk about maintenance much, and from the looks of it, it doesn't look like it would be that heavy duty. But if you need maintenance on a system like this, I don't know about you, but I don't know how to repair, horizontal turbines. I'm sure you'd have to get an expert to come out there and say Turbulent goes out of business. How are you going to find an engineer to come out and fix your turbine? You also have the issue of potential water rights and laws. A lot of states, a lot of countries really don't like you messing with water supplies because it affects people downstream. And so that's something, if you go through the process and try to get it pushed through, even though you're returning that water, only 10 feet downstream, a lot of states and municipalities really do not want anybody messing with water supplies, small or large. There's several examples across the internet of people who live way out in the country who use the stream to make themselves their own personal pond and start getting fined $1,000 a day for messing with the water. So you got to watch out for that. Install site selection. When you go to look for a suitable site with enough water flow and enough head to power one of these Turbulent turbines, you're going to have a really hard time. Again, like I said, me personally, this is one of my wet dreams in life, is to have a homestead out somewhere where I can generate as much electricity as I want via microhydro. And I can tell you, it's not easy to find. The only places that really have a lot of these factors in the land is up in the mountains. And if you've ever built a house in the mountains, you know it gets quite expensive because they have to bring all that material up very steep mountain roads, places that haven't been developed yet, and they got to install it, and that costs a lot of money. So finding a site to put your turbine is going to be easier said than done. You also have to consider the ecological impact. Even though that you're only taking out a small section next to the river, there's going to be an impact on the local wildlife, the fauna. You might have problems with erosion. There's going to be an impact. Even though it's small, it's going to happen. You can't take this with you. If you have solar panels or any other type of green energy like a wind turbine or anything, and you decide to move, you could pack that up and take it with you, and you can start generating electricity wherever you move. This thing, once it's set, you really can't move it. Now, you could possibly shut off the water, dig out the turbine, and then take that with you, and then wherever else you go, assuming you have a suitable site, you could build another concrete enclosure and put your turbine in it. But that's really not feasible in a lot of cases. When you leave, the next owner is going to get it. Although it might be a selling point for your house. Finally, long ROI time, 4 or 5 years. Now that's pretty much standard with a lot of green technologies, wind turbines, solar, really anything. And honestly, 4 or 5 years, that's not that long of a ROI time, because no matter what, you're going to use electricity wherever you go. Taking a look at the pros, one of the big things here I see is that you don't have to have battery banks. With solar, you have to store and trap that energy until you're ready to use it during the day. And with solar, you're only generating when the sun's out, and solar really doesn't work in every part of the country. Here where I am, solar's not so great. Now in the Southwest United States, solar works fantastic. Those concentrated solar arrays, man, they're fantastic. They're super cool to look at, but you have to have battery banks to store all that. And those can become quite costly, and the manufacturing of those battery banks, lithium batteries, takes quite a toll on the environment. You can look up your own stories about Chinese factories that manufacture batteries, and the ecological impact around those factories. Another pro, simple mechanisms. It's really just a concrete enclosure that directs the water a certain way, and you have your turbine in the center. That's your only complex piece of equipment, aside from the electrical equipment that gets the energy to your house. Simple install, I put this in quotes because generally speaking, it's a pretty simple install. Building a concrete enclosure is not difficult at all. You're just making a form, pouring concrete, and that's pretty much it. Installing the turbine is probably going to take a little while. You're going to need experts to do that, but overall, plopping a piece of equipment in the middle of a concrete enclosure, doing some excavation, running some electrical lines, and plugging it into your house or the grid, that's pretty simple as far as I can tell. And if someone out there knows more about this type of system and can tell me why it's ultra complex, I'd love to hear your comment below. Another pro, it's meant for long-term usage because you're going to use power forever. Solar arrays, they're going to get less efficient over time. They're going to break. You're going to need to replace them. I don't know that solar arrays, a lifespan of a typical solar cell or panel is really anything more than 7 or 8 years. If you know more about that, let me know in the comments below. The ecological impact is lesser. Now, there's still going to be an impact, but it's going to be far less, again, with the manufacturing of solar products. For wind turbines, those don't have a tremendous ecological impact unless you count birds getting chopped up in them. Other green types of electricity generation, almost nobody's going to be doing geothermal or wave generation on their own homestead. But in terms of this, you're not damming up a large body of water, so you're not preventing fish from coming and going. You're not stopping water from going downstream. You're just diverting it for a few feet, for a few seconds at a time, and you're putting it right back where you found it. It's expandable. Assuming you find a suitable site for your turbulent system, it's possible that you could just put one on the other side of the stream. You could put one right underneath it, assuming your elevation is high enough. You could do a lot of things with it. And if you've already got a crew there installing it, you might as well put in a second one. High output. Solar cells are a trickle. They give you a little bit of energy over time. That's why you see such large arrays out there. That's why you see concentrated solar arrays with that big tower in the middle, because it's a very small amount of electricity that they're extracting over time. They're storing it via batteries or molten salt or whatever they do, and then they let it out. But they have to invert it and convert it to AC. That's a lot of black magic wizardry that they have to do to get it into a suitable form of power. This is generating a lot of power at once. The most important thing, arguably to me, is that it's consistent power. Because when we run modern electronics and especially mining equipment, it requires a lot of power all the time. If you're doing solar and you fill up your battery banks full of solar energy, you can only run your mining rigs for a little while before they're completely depleted. Something like this is giving you a lot of energy at once, all the time. Another pro, it's potentially DIY-able. If you watch the crew install your turbulent system and you kind of get an idea as to what it takes, you could potentially rent excavation equipment. You could pour the concrete frame yourself, and then maybe only have to have someone out and come out and install the turbine itself. If that's the case, then you could potentially save a lot on the install fees. You also future-proof yourself against energy hikes because, like we said earlier, energy prices only go up. And so if they do go up, you're going to be locked in paying the same amount. And also when civilization collapses, you'll be making smoothies for everybody. So when the raiders come to pillage and take all your food and your ammunition and things like that, you can bribe them with smoothies and they'll go away. And so that's it, guys. That's my episode of Wishful Thinking. Again, something I've long aspired to have in my life, sort of a place that I can build out, go off the grid, so I never have to talk to another human being, and I can just die alone. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Is there another sort of thing that you want to see broken out, like solar, or perhaps, I don't know, geothermal or wind or something like that? Let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to take a look. Check the description below for links to everything we talked about here today. I'm The Technicals. See you next time.